Well, after the summer break, welcome back to Wrexham Property TV. This is the August edition. It's a matter of when, not if, when there will be a correction in the current market, sales market, generally speaking. However, as we are today, the market is still very, very buoyant. Every professional magazine I read, and I'm sure everything that you read in the papers and on social media, is saying to you there will be a correction at some point. That does not mean there'll be a crash. That just means there'll be a correction. And if it's 2, 3, 4%, 5%, there's still nothing for any prospective purchaser to worry about. The average UK property owner stays in the same property for, as an average, of between 8 and 9 years. So unless you're thinking of buying now and selling within the next 18 months or less, there is nothing for you to worry about at all. If you find a house of your dreams, then and you can afford it, then you should certainly buy it. But the county of Wrexham has actually found sales achieving £312 million worth of aggregated sales in the last 12 months up to the end of May. The UK property prices up to the end of May running at 12.8%. In Wrexham, it's running at 9%. It wasn't so long ago, possibly at the end of last year, beginning of this year, that actually Wrexham was running ahead of the national average. So we have dipped down slightly, but it's still in very, very good positive territory. And if you're looking at the average price for a property in Wrexham, it is now at £185,000. Again, a number that is correct up until the end of May 2022. Semi-detached and detached properties account for 70% of all sales in Wrexham. The type of property with the least amount of sales, only 6% in fact, is that of flats and apartments. Interesting factor for you, it takes 32 days on average to sell a property currently in the UK. And I am actually saying this to everybody who might have a property out there on the market currently. And certainly if it's in excess of 6 weeks on the market, there needs to be a conversation between you and your agent to see what can be done, because something is not working. 32 days is the average in the UK. I haven't been able to find you a Wrexham number there, but it wouldn't be too far away. I'm just going with anecdotal experience of what we're happening in our agency here. In fact, I would say it's somewhat less than a month that we're finding. If your agent hasn't already approached you with suggestions, options of what you need to do to help you gain that sale, I certainly think that you should now be proactive and either contacted your agent or another agent to see and get a fresh look at the property. So market's still buoyant, top prices still being paid, not quite as many prices over asking price anymore, but still a significant increase on where the property market was last year. I thought I would give you an introduction to what an auction is, how it works, the advantages, and also what kind of properties it works best with. There are two terms which are critical in an auction. One is the guide price and the other is the reserve price. Now, the purpose of marketing at an auction and the purpose of the guide price is to attract as much attention and as many prospective buyers as possible. And paradoxically, that's the reason that you find that people are more fearful of auctions, because many people will have looked at the web portals for auction sites and have seen guide prices that look very low for the property actually being photographed next to it. But that's the purpose of it, because a guide price is very different to a marketed price that you get on the open market for a property. A guide price is not there to show you how much you believe the property is worth. It is there to act as a hook, to hook people into having an interest in that property, because invariably guide prices are significantly exceeded when the auction starts if you've got enough prospective buyers. The critical term is reserve price. This is a price that the vendor, the seller, and the auctioneer know, but the prospective buyers don't. And that's a price you set whereby, as a seller, you would say, I am not prepared to sell my property for less than this. Now, the guide price might be 90,000, but you might say, well, I'm not going to sell for less than £120,000. So the reserve price, which is agreed between yourself and the auctioneer, is the critical price point. What can happen sometimes is a property is short of the reserve price, in which case it's not sold, but it might be very close. So after the auction is finished, the auctioneer would seek the seller's permission to approach the last bidder in order to see whether there was some kind of compromise that could be achieved, that you could meet somewhere in the middle to see if both parties would be agreeable to that to secure a sale. But if the answer is no, the answer is no. These are the three main advantages of an auction. Number one, the cost. If you're advertising a property on the open market, then there is a distinct cost to selling that property. And there are some companies who charge you a price even before selling. With auctions, overwhelmingly most auctions, the price of selling at an auction is borne by the purchaser. They pay a buyer's premium to the auction house. So the cost, and there will be a cost because you as a seller would have to pay for a legal pack, which is usually in the realms of around £500. But apart from that, the cost is borne by the purchaser. The second big advantage is the security of the sale. Currently, the work of conveyancers, solicitors, to carry out their work on a property takes anywhere between 12 and 16 weeks as an average, certainly in Wrexham. And also, until you sign the first contract, i.e. the exchange, which normally takes 8 to 10 weeks in a normal open market sale, either party can pull out of that sale. 30% of all sales which are sales subject to contract that are agreed do not make it to full sale. An advantage of an auction is once you know that a sale has been agreed and the gavel's gone down, that gives you security of the sale itself. Then the timeline of selling a property is potentially far shorter within an auction. Lastly, what kind of properties do auctions work well for? Two of the best examples would be one, a property whereby someone is trying to sell within a certain timeline. It may be that you want to take advantage of these buoyant prices currently and go to an auction because that sale will happen quicker than it will on the open market, followed by the conveyancing work that needs to take place. Secondly, if you have a property that is a bit quirky, it might have several different parts to it, whereby it's not just necessarily one building, but there are outbuildings and there is land with it. Auctions work really well with those kind of properties. It is a vehicle by which you can still get top quality prices by attracting the people who would be most interested on a national basis in the property that you're trying to sell. The current market's very much as it's been now for the previous 6 or 7 months. It's a very, very quick moving market. A lot of prospective tenants are saying to me it's a very frustrating time for them because they have got to be so quick off the mark to actually attain a property. Still, we're looking at numbers about 40% down on where we were this time last year in terms of numbers of available rental property. Principal reason is many landlords have cashed in on their properties during the period where the market prices are high. The average rental price in Wrexham currently is, and this is true up to the end of May this year, is £652 per month. And that represents, according to the official figures, of 8% increase over the last 12 months. I've got to say that our internal numbers, which only applies to this agency, are different to those. We're finding now that our average rental is 685, and also the average increase for the last 12 months, and our numbers are true up to the end of June, there's been an increase of 12% on rental values. My next message really is for landlords who may be self-managing. Come across 3 or 4 of these types of landlords over the last month or so. They tend to be in this county, if they're self-managing, they've got quite a few properties. You're not talking here about 2 or 3, you're talking about 8, 10, 12, and sometimes more. And there's one common thread. So if you're that kind of landlord, a multiple landlord, and you've been managing yourself, there is a common thread that I find with some of the other landlords I've spoken to, and that is, it's been a while since you've done a rental review on your properties. And many of you I know are now caught in the trap of knowing you should be doing rental reviews, but also knowing it's a difficult time for people in terms of their outgoings, in terms of their expenses, and you are worried whether that is the right time to have that kind of conversation. And possibly, if they're long-standing good tenants, maybe you are also shying away from it as well. I think there are ways in which you can have constructive conversations with tenants, because everybody's expenses have gone up, including landlords. And it could very well be that you would be certainly surprised what the market value, the full market value would be now, and where you are currently in terms of valuation. And certainly in terms of helping you with any market rental reviews, in terms of giving you current market prices, very happy to help with that. And also be able to advise you and recommend to you in what kind of short steps you could go to start introducing realistic and empathetic rental increases. The other consideration with all this, and I'm sure every landlord listening to this is already aware of it, there was going to be obviously a radical change in rental legislation in the summer, now pushed back to the 1st of December. That has a significant impact and a far more restrictive impact on the decisions landlords can take on rental increases from the 1st of December. And that is also a consideration you should have forefront of your minds when looking at your range of properties and what you currently charge as rent. I hope you enjoyed this month's various videos, and I hope to see you soon.